I've been a business guy. I've been in business for about 30 years. And you know what? During that time, I've had a chance to spend some time being a priest in blue jeans, right? And ministry to people in the workplace. Not as much as I wish I would have. I wish I could get some years back, to be honest with you. But I've done it enough to know that it can be done, and it makes a difference for the kingdom when you do it. That I know. God made you special and unique for a reason. You know, there's 7 billion people on the planet. There's only one just like you. And why did God do it? Well, why did he do that? Did he just do that to sort of show off? Well, that is pretty impressive, for sure. This scripture says that he did that because he had good works in mind for you. Very specific works in mind. And he prepared you the way he did. He made you the way he did. By the way, he decided that before you were ever born, so that you could walk in those works. And so this morning, what I really want to talk about is where and what are those good works, and what keeps us from doing those good works. In this whole area of doing good works, this and doing work for God in the marketplace, this is an area where Satan, I think, does some of his best work, unfortunately. And when I say best, I shouldn't say best, I should say most damaging work. Most damaging work to the kingdom, right? You know what? The last thing Satan wants is millions of believers out of the marketplace sharing Christ, right? So what does he do? What is Satan's primary tool? What does he do? Thank you. He's the father of lies. He's the deceiver. And he tells some real whoppers. This morning, I want to call him out on it. We're going to go to the Word. We're going to shine some light on this. We're going to strap the belt of truth on, right? And we're going to see if these lights are, hold up or not. Big lie number 1. Ministry is what takes place within the 4 walls of the church. It has no place in the workplace. I don't know. I've probably thought that before. A lot of folks out there that I've talked with that do think that way. But let's see if that's the case. The best place to go find out if that's true or not really is the New Testament, right? Let's look at Jesus. Let's look at the disciples and the apostles to see where they did most of their work, right? So let's start with Jesus. We know mostly of Jesus for his 3 years in public ministry, right? But what did he do before that? Carpenter. Right up until 30 years old, he was a carpenter. Scriptures make it clear he was in the family business, right? I don't know if he, owned it or managed it by that time, but at 30 years old, he may have. Isn't it incredible, the Savior, right? Wouldn't you have thought that he would have spent time, in the synagogue or in some kind of religious training or something? No. He spent most of his life in the market. Jesus chose 12 men to be his disciples. All of them came straight from the workplace. None of them have religious training or background. Jesus' ministry was focused in the marketplace where most people spent their time. And by the way, still do. Of his 132 recorded public appearances, all but 10 of them were in the marketplace. Wasn't in a church. 45 of the 52 parables have some kind of a workplace context. Think about the wise and the foolish builders and the sower of seeds. and the 3 servants that were given talents, right? Christ knew that that would relate to people because they were market people. They understood that language. He was trying to get through to them. The writing of the Gospels, they were left not to religious scholars, but to marketplace leaders. Matthew was a tax officer. John was a partner in a food business. Again, really? Right? How about the apostles? Peter. Fisherman. Paul, tent maker, right? And by the way, they did that work even while they were doing their ministry, right? Of the 40 divine encounters and miracles in the book of Acts, 39 of 40 occurred not in the church, but in the marketplace. So that one, that lie doesn't really hold up, does it? Lie number 2 here, I think, is one of his favorites. We're not qualified. You know, my walk isn't just right with the Lord right now. I don't see myself as a priest. I didn't go to seminary. I don't know enough about the Bible. I might get some questions that I can't answer. I'm just not qualified, right? So I just don't want to go there. Well, I think it's time to go revisit our verse in 1 Peter, don't you? Because it makes it pretty clear, once again, but you're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Sorry, we are qualified. If we're saved, if we've accepted Christ, we can do this, right? If you can talk, you can do this. I got saved when I was 11 years old, almost 12. And growing up in church, I'm going to tell you that I had heard hundreds of sermons, right? Mainly from these really old guys, right? And they all sounded the same to me. I had a best friend growing up. His name was Bert Kelso. He was my closest neighbor, and man, we did everything together, right? We grew up out in the country. We went, BB gun shooting and rode bikes and played football and baseball and fished and just all sorts of stuff. And so anyway, and Bert went to my church. And one day, Bert walks down the aisle, and he accepts Christ and wants to get baptized. And I was kind of like, well, what's this all about, right? After Bert got saved, I have to tell you that he was different. He was 11. He was my age. Yeah, we were in the 5th grade together when this happened. And man, I just thought something was alive. Something was definitely different about Bert. There's no question about it. And Bert started witnessing to kids at school. And like, that's a dangerous thing to do for a 5th grader, man. And I was his best friend, so I said, Bert, dude, I said, you keep this up, you're going to definitely get kicked out of the cool club, right? I mean, I thought I was looking out for him. Do you know what he said to me? He said, I don't care. And by the way, Tim, have you accepted Christ? Well, Bert, you know me. I grew up in church, man. I don't get into a lot of trouble. Because I'm your best friend, dude. I've seen you sin. Don't tell me about that. He said, you need to make a decision for Christ. And you know what? It just started changing things for me. I didn't do anything right away, but God used that. I started to hear the knock on the door of my heart from Christ, and this is about 2 months later, and I still remember it. Second stanza of Just As I Am, I walked down and gave my life to Christ. It was the best decision that I ever made in my life. And you know what? When you're 11 years old, at least at this church, the whole idea of evangelism, they would tell you is, hey, if you have a friend that you think doesn't know Jesus yet, here's what you do. Don't necessarily talk to them, but bring them to church so that they can hear sort of the professionals explain the gospel, right? Because we really, they didn't say this, but what I really got out of that was we really can't trust an unqualified 11-year-old with the eternal destiny of someone. That's what I got out of it. Well, let me tell you something. If it hadn't been for an unqualified 11-year-old named Bert Kelso, I may not be saved right now. I may not even be here. I'm not qualified, don't buy it. It's garbage. If you're a believer, you can talk, you can tell your story. You can do this, you're qualified. The last slide on the list I want to talk about is this one. Well, why do I have to be involved? Why don't they, if somebody wants to meet Jesus, why don't they just go to church, or maybe they could turn on the televangel? I've heard it, people thought it, right? I've looked at the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Barna organization. They're a research firm, and they do a lot of studies, population studies, and related to religion, right? And, here's the thing, just our area right here, in Solano, Napa County, any guesses as to what percentage of people are professed Christians? Actually 7%. And only 4% attend church. Okay, so within this Solano, Napa County, within probably a 25-mile radius of this, we have over 500,000 people living in this area, right? This is our community, right? That means there's about 430,000 plus people out there that need to know Christ that haven't met him yet. Short of them just deciding to stop by our church or other churches in this area, how else are they going to hear about Christ? How else are they going to meet him? How else are they going to see him? Right? We have to do what God's called us to, the good works that he's called us to, right? And I just have a few things that I want to share with you. These are practical things. You don't have to go through the 4 spiritual laws. You don't have to go through some long thing, right? These are going to be some practical things that you and I can do starting tomorrow on the job, right? So the first thing is to just be an ambassador for Christ, right? Just remember that we're carrying Christ around with us. And I'm willing to bet that if you're in the marketplace, I'm willing to bet that someone along the line has said something like, there's something different about you, right? I bet it's a very high percentage in here. Why is that? Right, when we get saved, we get the Spirit, right? And we get the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is what people see, right? It's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, right? Those are the things that they look at it and go, there's something different there. We can tell people we're a Christian, but until they see the fruit, that's when it really registers with them, right? That's part of being an ambassador for Christ. Bloom where you're planted. I worked for FedEx for 16 years. And I remember my first entry-level interview job with them. It was with this older guy. He was probably 70 years old, man. He seemed ancient to me. That's not very old anymore for me now, but then it was. I remember, and after our interview was over, he goes, so, Sonny or something like that. He goes, let me give you a piece of advice, because you're just starting your career here, right? I said, okay, sure, man. What do you have to say? He said, bloom where you're planted. I said, what does that mean? I understand it from a growing something perspective, because whatever job that you get, even if you don't like it, even if it's not your favorite job, do it well, right? Because it's the key to getting the next job and the next best job, right? And man, he was so right about that. As it relates to this, bloom where you're planted is wherever God decides to take you, right? What other opportunities what other people he puts in your path. That might be that you're sharing within a small group, or it might be that you're speaking into a group, or it might be that you're working with someone that is having a tough time in their life, and they need some grace, and they need some love, right? That's blooming where you're planted, right? It's wherever God puts you. The next thing, just practical thing I would say, is just ask God to show you where He's working. If you pray that prayer, God, show me where you're working and where you want me to work, He will answer it. So get ready, right? Because He's gonna show it to you. Last thing I would share is that we need to begin with the end in mind. I was thinking when I was really kind of reviewing the tapes on what happened with my salvation experience that I shared with you. I was thinking about Bert, and I thought, you know what? I bet that when I get to heaven, I'm going to have several conversations with him, right? And that conversation is going to go something like, Bert, dude, thank you. Thank you for being willing to be used by God when you were 11 years old, even though you were unqualified, even though it was a risky move, right? You shared them with me. And guess what? If you hadn't have done that, I don't know, I might not be here. So I imagine I'm going to do that. And I just would say to you that, really, my prayer for you and I is that when we're in heaven, that we're going to have some people come up to us and say the same kind of thing. Thank you. Thank you, even though you didn't feel 100% qualified to do this. Thank you for speaking into my life, right? Wouldn't that be cool?